Are all ready? Okay, perfect. Good afternoon. I'm calling the October 22nd board meeting to order at roughly 10 seconds to 6 o'clock. If we could begin with roll call, please, down with
Dave Larson, Director of District 5. Terrence Proctor, Director of District 4.
Dr. Concy Pedrosa, Superintendent.
Charlie Simpson, Director of District 3.
Aiden Halleck, soon to be junior student representative to the board. Alex Brewster, senior student representative.
Perfect. We better move some
Hurry up, jump forward. Jump forward.
Yeah.
I'm just. A few minutes. Yeah. a few minutes.
Get the whole end of the table. It's all yours.
Go ahead and do it.
We're already there. We actually are introducing ourselves, so once we get settled, we'll let you introduce yourself.
You done, everybody's already done their stuff?
Yes,
Okay,
you came in at the right time.
Right on track.
I'm Kate Cruller, Director of District 2.
Okay. Thank you, and then welcome our guests who are joining us both in person and online. I will be reading the Land Recognition Act. So we in the Temple School District acknowledge that the land we teach, collaborate, learn, and play is the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and the Muckleshoot people, past, present. And honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish and Muckleshoot tribes. As a public school district, we have a responsibility for the stewardship of the land, and we strive to work alongside the Duwamish and Muckleshoot people who have been living and working here since time immemorial. We further acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systemic injustice falls upon the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. We remember that Black and brown people were born and died working the land against their will for generations. We also acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today. Of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. As a school district leadership, we pledge to recognize and work against systems that have historically and currently enforce and create inequities among the peoples we serve. All right, so for those of you who would like to stand, we will pledge allegiance to the flag, which is my right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I need a motion for the approval of the October 22nd board agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, so it has been approved. All right, so we're gonna turn it over to our superintendent that is going to do our oath of office.
I'm really excited. I will watch my step.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lots of little
Everywhere.
cords everywhere.
Yeah.
Ready to come with me? Sure. Let's go over here to the center in front of everyone. We can see in the office for our student rep right here. Great. Okay, so I'll hold up the right hand. And so I'm gonna say this in chunks, you can repeat after me, okay? I, Aiden Halleck, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington.
I, Aiden Halleck, do solemnly swear. Small chunk.
No, it's 10-2, 10-2, 10-2. ELL strategy, 10-2. Okay, we're gonna start over. I, Aiden Halleck, do solemnly swear
I, Aiden Halleck, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and will to the best of my judgment,
and to the best of my judgment,
skill, and ability,
skill, and ability,
truthfully, faithfully, diligently,
truthfully, faithfully, diligently,
and impartially perform the duties of the office
and impartially perform the duties of the office
of the Tukwila School District,
of the Tukwila School District,
student representative to the Board of Directors
student representative to the Board of Directors
in and for King County, Washington,
in and for King County, Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law and policy.
as such duties are prescribed by law and policy.
You are now sworn in. Thank you. So let's get up. Okay, go ahead and sign your name right here. This is exciting. So I just want to say Aiden has, in the last month, even though he wasn't sworn in, Aiden has been participating in our superintendent student advisory group. He's been coming to meetings. And I just want to share that they have been super much focused on the work here in the Tukwila School District. And we're just really thankful that you were here.
Thank you. Thanks for this.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So, thank you. We are now moving to our public comment section. If you're attending in person or would like to make a public comment, you can sign up, which we have one here. The sheet for those who are attending online, you can raise your hand or type your name in the chat section. And do we have any online? And then we will move to our in-person. No. All right, Mr. Joe Camacho, we have a public comment.
Hey all, Joe Concho, I'm a Tukwila resident and teacher at Foster High School, happy to be here. Just want to share some great news with you. Foster High School has been the recipient of the King County RE+, that's RE+ Schools Voucher Grant, where we received over $7,000 to purchase compostable utensils that are gonna last many years. When we received this shipment last week, there's so many boxes of compostable forks and spoons. What this does, it's going to support the composting program that was student-led at Foster High School. Because what's going on is students don't know where things go. They're learning what bin do things go in. So removing one of the plastic pieces, which were our plastic utensils from that equation, students are feeling a lot more confident putting things in the right bin. So I wanted to share that good news. And the waste reduction. So I got some numbers for you. By making the switch, we're looking at reducing the amount of plastic utensils going into the landfill. This is every year by 233,000. So that's how many plastic utensils we're reducing. So it's kind of a lot. They were delivered last week. The program started or launched this Monday, and we were able to get this grant through a partnership that we have with the city of Tukwila with someone who works there. Her name is Sam Wilder. She's been working, implementing the composting programs at the elementary schools. And then she also worked with Jose Baca Martinez, who was a senior last year, in creating the composting program at Foster High School. So some good news about that. Some other good news, earlier this year, around May, the Foster High School Garden Program was the recipient of a Port of Seattle grant. It's through the South King County Community Impact Fund, for a total of $60,000.
Woo!
Yeah, over the next 3 years. So we'll be getting installments of $20,000 each year. And this grant is to fund the first few phases of our garden expansion. We worked with Tilt Alliance, which is a local nonprofit, to create a 5-phase garden expansion program that I've shared with the superintendent and some of the directors behind me and with you all. And for the first 3 phases, we got 3 years of funding to implement that. It's great because what that's gonna include is building an outdoor garden space, expanding our growing space that we have now, and installing perimeter fencing. We've had some unwanted help in the garden this summer. I'm trying to fit it. Some unwanted help in the garden, so a perimeter fence is gonna help keep some of the crops that the students put a lot of effort in, keep those things safe. But some bad news about it. Right now, the project's kind of at a standstill. At the district level, the approvals kind of been passed from director to director, saying who's gonna say yes to our perimeter fencing, to our shed. And I'm concerned because if we don't spend the first installment, which is $20,000 by March, we lose the rest of the funding. So what I'm encouraging us, the community and the directors behind me, is just to, let's get it going. We've got the money. TILF is actually our fiscal sponsor. So all of the payments, everything we're buying is going through them. We're not spending district money on the parts that we're looking at for approval now. So it's a no-brainer. I wanted to share the good news. $60,000 for the garden expansion, and another almost $8,000 for the utensils in the lunchroom. So doing cool stuff. I want to share with y'all. Thanks.
I'm just curious, you said there's some damage to the garden. Is it people damage or is it animal damage?
It's people.
People, okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Somebody has their hand up.
Okay, that was my next question. Yeah, so, okay. So are we gonna need to read it or will we be able to hear it from home?
Can you
Go ahead,
hear-
Robin.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I was a little late to getting my hand up there. I just wanted to say congratulations to Aiden. He is a former Tukwila Elementary student, and I think it is a very good choice that you made to have put him on the board. So congratulations, Aiden. Nicely done.
Hey.
Thank you. Can we do that?
Okay, if there are no other comments. And nothing else on it, then we are going to move on to our agenda here. I can't see the first, but our student, yes, thank you. It's going to be our, we'll go over all the orders.
Yeah.
Yeah, student representative report, thank you.
I'll start off with the report from Alex Brewster, senior student rep. So for my report this month, I worked a little on the upcoming WASDA conference that I'm presenting at along with Dave Larson. And this last week, we met up to discuss, to refine my presentation and discuss his part 2. And essentially what I did is I compiled my ideas into slides that will be presented at next month's conference. So yeah, and in regards to the student advisory board, unfortunately I couldn't make it to the last meeting because I was sick. So Aiden will be mostly reporting on that. But I can say on October 14th, there was a race and equity leadership meeting along with the student advisory board, and it focused on enforcing anti-bias discipline and included reviewing school discipline data and analyzing trends by race and gender. And tomorrow, me along with Aiden and Naomi are gonna meet up to discuss future meetings and planning.
As to the student advisory board meeting, the last one that happened, our first one of the year. Overall, we talked about student concerns around safety and environment, speaking to the social environment at Showalter, mostly in particular with more ableist things happening within Showalter. We decided one of our primary focus topics for the year, which was, I believe, academic policy. It was a very, very thought-provoking meeting. It really shed light onto the further work that we have to do to make Tukwila a safe place for all students, regardless of their background and regardless of, everything involved with their identity.
Great, thank you. Any questions or anything from anyone? Or students? No? Okay, moving on. We'll go to the superintendent report.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to see so many people here. This makes me happy. Just happy October. I hope that everyone is enjoying the fall. We're having some great Christmas and fall air, and it's been kind of nice. Just to share a little bit, we still have an uptick of some absences, particularly staff absences due to some COVID and other respiratory illnesses. We are continuing to monitor the situation. We've had some staffing shortages, and it's something we're paying attention to. And we're making sure that district admin can dispatch as needed if we need to. In some cases, we've had to do that this year. I just want to give a sincere appreciation to all of the families who came out to the school open houses. It was really, we had a lot of attendance, and I just want to thank also the staff for their diligence and preparation for the events. Parent-teacher conferences, as a reminder, November 6th through 8th, families should receive information around parent-teacher conferences. Cascade Youth, Thorndike, Tukwila Elementary, and Foster High School will be conducting those. It'll be an early release for students, and Scholl Walters will be in December. But that information should be coming forth from schools. It is School Bus Safety Week. And so I just reminder to families, please talk to your students about school bus safety and around buses, waiting for stops. Also give a thumbs up to the bus drivers. I see them, when I went out to a couple schools, they actually come out and talk to me, and they're super focused on making sure students get to school on time. So just make sure you wave and say hi. They're an amazing crew, and thanks to the transportation department for all they do. I have another announcement related to Julie Hurt. She's our MKV McKinney-Vento quality specialist. She was selected as one of 2 nominees that Washington State will forward to the United States Department of Education for consideration for the RISE Award, which is another recognition for staff in our schools. And so we're really excited. She's one of the 2 people from Washington State going forward at the national level. So this is really exciting. I want to send a quick thanks to Representatives David Hackney, Steve Bergquist, and Mia Gregerson for their support and willingness to learn. They came here to learn about what Tukwila does to support our students who are homeless in our district. And I'm not going to go into details because Director Larson, who actually initiated that meeting, he can go into more details about the purpose of the meeting and how it went. Congratulations to Foster High School football team who won your homecoming game. So I heard it was a big win, but I'm not going to say the numbers because I don't want to embarrass the other school. It was a really big win, like huge. So I'm not going to say that. But congratulations, Foster. This month is National Principal Appreciation Month to October. I want to give a high shout out to our principals. Thank you to Michael Croyle at Thorndike Elementary, Dr. Tanisha Fremstad at Cascade View, Hani Nur at Tukwila Elementary, Brett Christopher at Showalter Middle School, and Latanya Parker at Foster High School. I also want to send appreciation to our assistant principals, Cindy Perez, J.R. Lorca, and Naz Rokanaki. They are working as a team, and they love what they do. They all love what they do. They've all shared how the year's gone, and I just want to make sure that we acknowledge them. We have done that, and we've sent them some things, but just want to make sure we do that as a district. Just one quick announcement, Cascade View is having their Monster Bash on October 25th, 6:30. It's on the website. There's dancing, there's food, there's fun. It's all on the website. And then just last thing, I know there's some, we'll talk about priority of safety. That is one of our prioritizations is safety, but not just physical safety, social emotional safety. And also we talked about social media safety, making sure that our students are safe from any social media attacks. That it's something we've been talking about since last year. The students have raised it up. We're trying to continue to prioritize safety in all forms in our district, and just making sure that also just assure community that when anything happens, we investigate thoroughly, and then our goal is always to ensure that whatever we can improve, we enhance our protocols to make sure that any gaps that surface up from anything that we're actually making sure, because our goal is number one, no student should ever feel
that they are in an unsafe situation. And so it's our mission, it's our mission to focus on that. So I just wanted to highlight that as a district and as the superintendent of Tukwila School District. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for superintendent? Okay, then moving on, we'll go to the board of directors report. Do you want to start over there?
I was away, on more medical, activities, and I consider it a continuous improvement program. I'm getting out and reaching out to the public and students in the future with greater ease.
Awesome.
I'm just surprised you're here. Thank you. Thank you.
I guess we'll just go this way, then I'll take next. So I went to the Foster, homecoming. It was a big win. I got to work in the concessions, area there, which, needs a lot of help. I think they need more volunteers. My question would be, ASB and Booster. You know, where are they anymore? I know, and I'm just kind of curious about what that looks like and how that's being, fostered at Foster, you say? I think that would be
Fostered
best.
at Foster.
Yeah,
That's a great
just-
phrase.
I know we talk about getting, parents involved in different things, and I think that that's always a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Second would be just the maintenance in there. If we could, we have a lot of outlets out, some different things that we were trying to get, cookers and different things that, that we needed. And so we're kind of spreading that kind of stuff out. So it'd be good to figure out, I don't know, do we have an electrician, like someone who can change an outlet out? Or do we have to actually hire an electrician to do that?
I actually don't.
If it's already existing, if the outlet's already existing.
Liliana has a report later. Yeah.
Yeah, we can ask later, or if you could email me, that'd be
Or
good, just to
how
try
about in
to.
your report at the very end, you can just answer the question.
Yeah,
So
that would
just
be
get
great.
that, sure.
Super.
During your report, because you're doing a report today. Great.
Yeah, they need a lot of help, so all I have to say is, I'm gonna have to do it again. So, but if there's people listening online that want to get involved, that would be great, because it all goes to ASB. Right, and so, but there's nobody from ASB there, so
Okay.
that'd be super.
Oh, I had the opportunity to coordinate with Principal Christopher for the Husky football team to come by show. I think they're scheduling for this Friday, just do some community relations and hang out. So we're gonna final touch on that. It's good to hang out and touch base with them.
Big request from Foster, nice.
Oh, because that's how I started. So, yeah, I'm not gonna, did you my name? And they said they can't go to high schools because it's recruiting.
Oh, good information.
We both almost got everybody else.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now we know.
Should have been, we ain't got no NIL money, so they shouldn't have to worry about it. But no, so we decided.
But that's good to
Hope-
know.
hope It works with the kids you do.
Wow,
Some of the
good to
other
know.
schools they did, so super, yeah. Good license.
So I wanted to bring back, if we can bring up the priorities, so last time we talked about the WASDA General, the School Directors Association General Assembly, and the process we go through to rank the top legislative positions, and every all of districts, I think this year, 90 of them actually voted for the top 10. And what I have there is the X's are the ones that we picked at the top 10 and then the WASDA ranking overall. So you can see, about half of ours also were the top 10 for the rest of the state as well. The difference is kind of in the, we rank equity a little higher than the rest of the state does, that's surprisingly, and so that's kind of the difference. So anyway, I just wanted to bring back, how we did, and if anybody has any questions on that. There was, I think, 60 positions rated altogether, so. Went to the Foster homecoming game, and it was interesting, I think there was a lot more, Foster alumni there. There are a lot of folks in the stands this time, but I think they made an effort to get out. There were some activities before the game and all that, so they made an effort to get a lot of that. So that was great. The football team this year is interesting. When I look at their schedule, they either win by a huge amount or they lose by a huge amount. So I don't know what this says about the schedule, the equity in the schedule, but anyway, they did really well on the homecoming night, so that was great. Went to, yeah, open house at Thorndike, which also really, I've been to a couple of them, and the open house at Thorndike was also really well attended. The room was packed with people, so which is great. So there's a lot of that bodes well for parent involvement in the school system. Did want to, coming up this weekend, wasn't super well publicized, but on Saturday, the League of Education Voters and what's called the Roadmap Project, Community Center for Educational Results, is having a student kind of advocacy forum over in the Renton Pavilion. It's kind of all day. You can register. It's free to go. They give you lunch and everything, and there's going to be a lot of different sessions on given by various students in the area. I don't know if any of our students are on the program. I didn't see any, but anyway, they'll be talking about how to do advocacy with the legislature and things like that. So I think I'll probably go over and see what they're going on. They've been working on this for a while. Talking about, yeah, Dr. Pedrosa and I and our two McKinney event, our two quality engagement specialists, and also our special education director and also our communications director met with the three legislators. Two of them, Representative Berquist and Hackney, are the representatives in the House from our 11th district, which is where we are. And Representative Gregerson is right next door. She does the 33rd, the SeaTac area, but she's a graduate of Foster High School. So it's the first time I ever had three legislators together on plates. And one of the things about it is that both Representative Berquist and Gregerson are on the money, what I call the money committee in the House of Representatives, which is the appropriations committee, and they're the ones that decide, you know, how the money is allocated to schools. And so they're, and particularly Representative Berquist, that's kind of his specialty, is working on the K-12 budget. I think Representative Gregerson is working on the kind of the second most highest budget, and that's the social services budget. And so those are the really two good people to have in the room. And as Dr. Pedrosa said, they did, I was happy that they did a good job of listening, because, I mean, as usual, our quality engagement specialists do a great job of passionately talking about their work and how important it is, and particularly connecting it to the overall well-being of the state and everything, because, you know, they do a lot of what I call preventative work, that is help families either that may be getting close to going into homelessness stay out of it, or pull them out of it so they don't slide down into the more dire situations, which ends up costing the state a lot more money. And the state is working a lot, obviously, on homelessness now, on mental health issues, on you know, a lot of those, the crime is another one. And so all those issues, you know, have preventative components in public education. So doing that connection was really good. We kind of advocated with particularly Berquist to do a pilot project to help fund our two McKinney, or our two quality engagement specialists for a year, because they do such a good job. And if the state can look at how that works and then spread it hopefully to other districts. And Representative Berquist was, I knew he was taking it in, because he was asking how much would it cost, which is always the first, you know, step along the way. And then, you know, how could it be, how could he get other people in the district to buy, or in the state to buy into it? So I'm pretty optimistic that he's going to take a serious look at it. And Dr. Pedrosa did a really nice job of, I don't think Representative Gregerson really appreciated the connection between what happens in schools and the social service agencies that are around, and how if you connect them through the schools, you can be much more effective in working. So that was, I think, a good education. So I was really happy with the process. It went really well. And so it's what I call planting seeds. So we'll see what develops when the legislative session starts. But I was really happy with it. So it was a good session. And let's see. I think that's, oh, well, yeah, one other meeting, I did have a good meeting with our PEA president, Debbie Aldis, and we were talking, and as well as one of the teachers at science teachers at Showalter, and we were just kind of talking about how we could kind of work together to help on our funding situation. And so it was good. She said she's going to look at obviously WA, which is the statewide teachers union, is one of those powerful lobbies in Olympia. And so she's going to perhaps kind of work on within that organization to help them get awareness about the whole issue of equity in funding and how that's really going to help a lot of the students that are needing help. So that was a really good meeting as well. So there's a lot of good things that are, I think, in the works for this next legislative session. It's going to be a tough one because the revenue forecast for the state is coming down because sales are coming down because of all the tightening that the Federal Reserve did to try and control inflation. But anyway, just getting the idea of equity in their minds is a important thing. So there was an interesting article in the Seattle Times this morning that they did a statewide poll that says that 2/3 of the voters would support significant increases for public education and funding significant increases. So it's a popular thing statewide, and hopefully, and we'll see how the legislative session develops. So that's it. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, I did think of one more thing. I keep forgetting until I get to the work sessions and then I can't put it in. But the Historical Society for Tukwila has re-energized and became dormant during COVID and pretty much wasn't doing anything actively until I'd say end of July and summer. They've been meeting on the third Wednesday of the month. And as they look through their lease, which they have until 2030, one of the aspects of the requirement they have student programs. And so I said I would take up the standard and bring it back to the district and say, what ways can we get students excited about the historical society itself and be intrigued with the history that we have here, which every meeting we open with acknowledgement, land acknowledgement, and talk about Native American history that go back 10,000 years. Perhaps that might be an entry. Another would be just the building itself, because it used to be a schoolhouse, then it was a city hall, and now it's a museum. Another thing is environmental programs that we have might want to get involved with the property and the activities that might. It's a very small piece that the Historical Society is responsible for, because the rest is park and recreation. But it just seems like there might be a fit there. There's 1,000 other ways that it could be found out. What I do not know as a new board member is how did I get started with trying to get the two organizations talking to each other about what might make sense. Maybe a principal will go, oh, Eureka, this is the project I've been looking to get students involved in, or maybe it's something a little more structural. I know it's on my heart as a member to work very, very hard on not only the colonial history, that definitely has great bodies of work. They have almost none on Native American history, almost none on anything except white colonial discovery. So with that right there, we might be able to get students active from some kind of a path or another. So I think the answer is go through the superintendent. But I want to put it before this body so that you guys are aware that it's a requirement of their lease to have student programs over there. So we need to do a handshake, I think, pretty quickly. Thanks.
Thank you.
Seems like another possibility, I don't know, the curriculum that's required by the state for Time of Memorial. Which ties back to the, pre-colonial times, there could be a connection there. then.
Excellent. I know a few years ago, I think it was the drama, courses, they went and studied, our background and actually put together a play. And then along the way, the students learned a lot, so I wonder if there's something there. And I also want to put forward that the Wamish have talked to us and have engaged, to the city and others about possibly sharing artwork or doing other things. We have lots of things in their museum. And I know the city of Tooele, when it designed the front foyer for the Justice Center, intended that emblem and ribbon to be surrounded by local artwork. And it seems like that might be another path that we could just maybe have students be the brokers of what gets put up in the Justice Center as a program from the Historical Society. So there's a whole lot of possibilities that I don't know how to narrow them down. I just know we need to get a handshake going so we can start to declare there's a program and this is where we're going to plan and move forward. I just think it's a really good opportunity.
Super. So should we move forward back to the superintendent?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Yeah, please send me that information.
And then the contact.
Mhm.
Okay, if there is nothing else from the board reports, then we're gonna move on to the approval of the minutes from September 24th, 2024 board meeting. Need a motion?
Move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor? Thank you. And then we also need the approval of the minutes from October the 8th workforce
Could
session.
you do all at once with the
Consent agenda.
consent agenda?
Oh, can I do them all?
Yeah.
That'd be sweet. All right, let's do it. Let's do them all. The approval of the minutes from October 8th, 2024, the approval of the warrants, also general fund, capital fund projects. Can I get a
So, oh, sorry.
perfect and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, well, that was way easier.
It's the beauty of the consent.
All right, so looking at our agenda and the presentations, we're going to move on to board discussions, policy for first review.
I'll just share a little bit of information. So we have two policy updates. One was a major policy, the first one. It's the Unified Equity, Anti-Racist and Family Engagement Policy. What we did instead is really try to make sure that we highlight at a high level. Policy is supposed to be the aspirational work. And then we actually have, and I can send that to the board next week, is we actually have a procedural guidance for schools that we've developed. It's pretty lengthy, but we can send it to you in terms of how this looks like in our schools. That was one of the things I was going to send and I forgot to send on Monday, but I'll make sure and send it tomorrow. But this is the procedure in combining several policies, but with a focus of making sure that it's aligned to the procedures and the learning we did last year and the previous years, and also ensuring our family engagement. So that's one, and then we can move to board discussion. And then the second one is the interscholastic activities, and that was written from the last presentation where we had a request to add non-athletic related activities into the policy, and so we added that into that. So that's a shorter adaptation. So those are the two brought in front of you to the board to review and look at.
So I want to start with the first one.
Sure.
So I like the combining of the three. That kind of makes sense to see all these three are fairly intimately related, should we say. What I was struggling a little bit with is, so we're now going to have this policy, plus we had the student advisory board GSE anti-racism statement, which they seem a little, I'm not sure how you look. I always get a little nervous when we create two different documents that kind of are in the same area, and then what happens over time is they can diverge from each other. So I don't know if we can. I was looking at a lot of the concepts from the, student advisory board anti-racist data are some of them are in here in this updated, policy, but not all of them. So I don't know if the fix is, or, well, if, yeah, I'm not quite sure how to resolve that, whether,
Maybe it should be part of, I'm looking at this, because the statement's pretty long.
Yeah.
But I think, we can have Naomi come, she can come and ask questions and she'll explain it.
Can I ask you a question? Are you just, concerned about the stewardship going forward? And you're okay with it as it is, or you're
well,
saying how
I'm
it is
concerned,
now will perpetuate bad stewardship going forward?
yeah, I'm concerned about if we have two different documents
Yeah.
that are kind of this, a lot of like overlapping. If one document starts to move off somewhere, and then how do we keep them in sync with each other? That's kind of what I mean, there is obviously a fair amount of overlap in relation to particularly the anti-racism part of the document, and whether we should just in fact combine them into one, or, yeah, I mean, there was a couple of, in the anti-racism document, there was reference to, for example, curriculum. It wasn't really in here. I guess the other way to look at this is, okay, here's the policy, and then this is more kind of detail. It more tends into maybe procedure or process, which that could be a way to make it work as well, that it's just more lower, and I don't know, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hello, everyone. Director of Communications, Equity and Engagement, Naomi Berto, and that was exactly
Okay.
kind of along the lines of
Okay.
thinking here. So in the kind of transformation of the three policies into one was not only taking the very critical details from those three policies, but also bringing in that student anti-racist statement. And so the policy, of course, is the governance, the more de jure,
Yeah.
whereas the anti-racist statement along with the procedures are kind of the things that kind of go into our everyday practices and what our expectations are as a
Okay.
system. So I would imagine that, but to your point of making sure that they remain aligned with each other, that whenever we go through revisions, that would be really critical for us to ensure that we revisit our students, our student leaders, to make sure that it's always in alignment and reflects what our values are as a system.
yeah, that makes sense, and maybe this, I don't know, could become a procedure.
It
Just-
could be
yeah.
like brought into the. procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
something-
and
okay.
Dr. Pajola will send that. procedure.
Yeah, that makes sense. The one thing I did, I was also looking at Highlines. They've had, race equity procedure around for a long time as well. And the one thing that I didn't kind of see in either of these was, in the Highlines, says the school board is committed to continuing to examine disaggregated academic achievement, discipline, and other data in order to identify continued disparities. And I think that's a really key part of this whole. And it's more like a procedure side of it, which, didn't get in the supervisory, but maybe there's another procedure, I don't know. But I think, disaggregation is really, I know from the original Race and Equity Committee that started in this just a long time ago, they came out with some procedures, and one of them was the importance of having, doing disaggregated data so that you can see actually what's going on there. So I think that concept, if you could work that in somewhere in here, that would be good either.
And would you prefer that in a policy or the procedure?
I don't, it sounds to me like a procedure
Yeah, I
more
think-
than a high level policy, yeah. Because it's how you do this stuff, it's not what you're trying to do, it's how you do it, yeah, so that would be good.
I was just gonna add that a lot of early adopters of racial equity policies ended up being really long because a lot of people made them procedural.
Yeah.
A lot, and so in terms of this iteration, that was our goal, was to keep it at the policy governance level.
Right,
And then really, because I really believe, having procedures along with that, and that's why we waited till we did this, was because we wanted to make sure that we had district-wide procedures for how we actually operationalize the work in place along with it. But that's a piece that we'll send to you all, so you can see them in tandem to each other, so you can see how they connect, so. But that was really important to us that we keep that, because that's the thing that I think people are still grappling with, because and not just equity policies, a lot of other policies, like, other things as well. So that's the thing, is how to keep them procedure and policy in alignment, but but at the centering what's really important in terms of governance for our policy work.
And I think we have pretty much recognized that, if you change the policy, then you need to look at the procedure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's kind of woven into. Which is good. The one other comment, when I was looking at so this is on the policy. And it apparently ties to an RCW. So this is under professional development and diverse staffing. It says we are also committed to recruiting and retaining diverse staff, reflective of our student population, acknowledging gender underrepresentation of certain groups in education, including people of color, women, veterans, individuals with disabilities, and others. When I look at women in the education, there is not representation, at least in the teacher corps. And I don't know if that, I guess did I actually go back? I don't know, does the RCW actually say?
Yes, so that was also brought from a previous policy. So
Yeah,
that
okay.
was direct quote from it.
Yeah, okay,
In general, it covers the protected classes.
Exactly.
yeah, they're just listing all the protected classes, okay.
For me, I see a really, really strong link between what I saw in the previous meeting about our strategic plan. I assume that's on purpose, isn't it the same order? And it's a question here, triple question.
Was
Is
that
it-
are you referring to?
There's a strong link between this and the strategic plans that we were looking at last work session.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it makes me think, is it in the same order so you can see that and match that? Or why is this appearing in the order that it's appearing here? So that's just kind of one. Two, if there are any in the strategic plan that's still under iteration with improvement that aren't here, why not? And then if there are some that are here that are in the strategic plan, why? Those are my three questions.
Okay.
You don't have to answer them tonight either.
Well, I can start off, just I think that the bigger picture for us as a system is aligning our strategic plan, our values, our visions, right? And so it just becomes our identity as a whole. So I can get deeper and maybe a little bit later about what is present, what is not, and also why it's ordered. But I do want to just provide that comprehensive statement that we're just realigning and making sure that we're structuring to re-identify where our identity is as a system.
Perfect. And then it goes back to something that either has no meaning or has meaning. Just like I think words matter, the order that things appear in a document matter. Is there a reason for the order that they appear here? Do they build, is one the parent of another, or do they stack? Is it alphabetical? Because it's the most important thing in this policy, doesn't appear first. I ask why, if you say it's alphabetical, I go, okay, yes. It's easy for me to find. If it's not at the front and it's not alphabetical, I'm trying to say, wow, where are our priorities?
It would be in the order of implementation.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at it, you'll kind of see that equity, anti-racism is at the top, which aligns with what our top priority is. And then it starts to come down with the last being implementation and what that looks like. So you'll kind of see.
Brilliant, thank you.
My question is always, to you, so the superintendent is, okay, so once this is put in place, or it is, that's here, what's the measure? Where are we taking a baseline, and then how often are we then taking a look at where we're doing and how we're moving forward, and who's responsible for that? And how's that information getting out? Because goals are great, but without any accountability, they really don't go anywhere.
I think one thing we could do is maybe, because we haven't done that before, and I think it is an expectation. It hasn't been done fully. It's like we did last year, having a report, from our equity leads. I think that's something we could do, a presentation report with some metrics. One of the things we're launching this year, which is brand new, is with the 6 pool areas. We're not doing all 6. Each school is prioritizing 2 of the 6, because the plan is the 6 main goals over the next 3 years. And so you can't, you know, you can't, you know, they have the strategic plan on these 2 goal areas. We're trying to be really, we want them to be successful. We want them to make sure that they have what they need. The main goal that everyone's focusing on as a district is anti-racist discipline. That's something that and so we're trying to make sure that it comes, so you should be seeing that thread, for example, in the school improvement plans, that thread in the strategic plan, that thread in the student advisory, that's a discussion for them. So everyone should be aligned to that, and how we measure that is through the data at the end when we actually share our discipline report. We should be able to see, and through the measurement through school improvement planning and the goals with the principals. I just met with the principal today in their goal setting meeting, and their personal goal is anti-racist discipline. Like that is one of their, they came to me with 5 goals, and one of the goals is anti-racist discipline in their school. So all of that should be triangulated throughout the whole system. You should be seeing that in all pockets, strategies, focus, all of those pieces. And then the data is what shows us our accountability on that piece. But we can do a report in terms of all these goals. We can do some type of, we did it before. We can do it at the end of the year and do probably an equity report of some, maybe a presentation, and share our progress thus far. It's year 1 of implementation of the new goals. But that is something we can do.
Yeah, I think it would be nice just to better understand where we currently are
Yeah,
here, you know, and with before the implementation.
yeah.
And then what's our measure of us going, you know,
Yeah.
getting better towards our goals, you know, that's there, because just looking at here, right, we've got different recognized as part of professional development, I see, we have parent involvement or community member involvement, you know, I think there are some measures that we can point at, so.
If I may, I believe that a lot of these data points are like uplifted in the various spaces that you mentioned. And so therefore, like, I believe just reporting out on the strategic plan would kind of cover it in many ways. Because what our strategic plan is sets up a map for all of these data points, right? And so when we think about the SIPs, when we think about the Student Advisory Board and our race and equity leads and what they're doing, this also contributes obviously directly to the academic outcomes as well as to culture and climate. So those surveys that we deliver to students and families. So I think that if we just continue to focus and center on the strategic plan, a lot of those data points will come out. And then as a result of the strategic plan being introduced last year, then we kind of have our baseline for identifying where we at and where we want to go.
And I appreciate that. My only thinking is we are still in the budgetary, you know, for the next year or so that we're gonna be there. So when I'm looking at the hires, who we're gonna hire, the, you know, different people that we're going after, I just wanna make sure that we're doing that, you know, and still aligning with our plan, you know, so I wanna make sure that I understand that the decisions we're making as work, especially in this challenging time, that's aligning with our plan, that it's not reactive to where we're at. So it has to be intentional, right? Is all I'm saying, and just trying to figure out, that's why I really need to know where we're at. So then I think it's a way for me to gauge of where we're gonna go. That would be helpful.
Let me just, I'm gonna take a note, we need to get in touch with the team about how to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the one other question I have, this is still on the United Equity and Anti-Racism. In the section under track changes, it says opportunity gap replaced with educational equity gap. I guess I didn't see that, I don't see that term used in the document. I see a couple of places, like in the first section under equity and non-discrimination, second paragraph, it talks about opportunity, which it sounds like the intention was to replace that with educational equity gap.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, okay. It's in, so under track changes, you see that one, opportunity gap, it says replace with educational equity gap. And then if you go back to the front under the equity and non-discrimination, there's 2 paragraphs. And it's in the second paragraph that the word opportunity is used a couple of times.
Mm,
And I'm not sure was the intention to replace those with educational equity gap. It's, yeah,
well, yes, and the reason why I'm pausing is
Yeah.
because there's that outcomes for all part here, right? And so that kind of encompasses not only the equity element.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, the gaps, so
right.
outcomes for all, so. But if that is something that we want Chris, replacement to it, but that was something that I had noticed in the previous iterations of the policies, the opportunity gap was in there, so I just wanted to make sure. That all the language was as equity centered as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, the state has kind of gone through a phase of, originally we were talking about achievement gaps. And then it moved to opportunity gaps to recognize that we're not talking about, achievement gaps tended to be deficiency, like the students are deficient. No, opportunity gap is more like the system is deficient and needs to change. And then, but yeah, the educational equity, that's kind of a similar thing, because does everybody have this, access to what they need to, achieve? So, yeah, I don't, like I said, I'm just curious about, I didn't see an actual replacement, but using the word opportunity is fine with me too, so.
We have to strike it, we can do that too. If we have it.
Are the track changes summaries gonna be included in the final version?
I don't think so. Okay. Is there any thoughts from anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have one, did you do the interscholastic?
No.
We didn't do that one, but that's the next
Oh,
one.
that's the next one.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right, interscholastic, policy.
Yeah, so my only comment on that one was, I probably started this whole discussion. It's the substitution in this one says, participated in interscholastic and other intramural programs and non-athletic programs. So you also have later on a list of the interscholastic activities. Interscholastic is between schools. So I didn't, on this list, there's a lot of things that aren't between schools, they're just programs that are going, that wasn't what I was looking for. I was just looking for things that there are a few things, and I think I named probably most of them, that there are activities between schools, like the robotics, like the keep, think the environmental science had a between school competition. I'm just looking for those because those are interscholastic. So I'm not looking for the list of everything that's, supposedly kind of, I don't know what, a lot of these things on this list were not interscholastic. Yeah, so.
So that's related to the reports, we can get at that, but in terms of the policy.
Yeah, so the policy, so putting, I mean, to me, says, well, there's 2 things done in this provision. One is to replace the gender, specific type of thing, which is fine. And then it said, with respect to participation in interscholastic and intramural programs and non-athletic programs and events, that to me isn't even needed. All I was looking for was participation in interscholastic programs, period.
Yeah.
You don't need to have,
Okay,
yeah. I think it was making it a little more complicated than it should.
And you say is this like the first pass on?
yes, this is
Yeah.
review, this is
Yeah.
just review, feedback.
Yeah.
We'll take it back and then we'll bring it back to the board for approval.
Okay,
But this is just a first pass to look at, so anytime, yeah,
when we see something highlighted, like insert
Yeah.
amount, that's not our answer.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, this was just a change related to the last conversation, and so just getting clarity.
Just want to make sure we understand our role at this moment.
Yeah, it's feedback, input. All right. Thank you. Anything else? Interscholastic? All right, thank you.
Perfect. All right, so. I think we did the response to questions since it was our. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we can move on to the enrollment reports. Is there any questions? And directors, any questions? We'll take a moment, I guess.
I guess the only thing at the beginning, it was, the numbers were changing and you kept waiting for a certain, I don't know what, line in the sand, Dr. Pedrosa. Have we reached that with this report, or is it still changing?
The monthly report comes in, you know, we have to provide you a monthly update, and we can have CFO, planning discuss this. We have an October 1 count that we have to work towards, so that was the big deal for us between, August to October 1 is ensuring accuracy, because that's how we're funded, right? October 1 is how we're funded on those enrollment counts. So the big push and explanation around that was the focus. Now we're in the process of giving you a monthly update, because as you know, our enrollment fluctuates so heavily, to make sure that you all are aware of those fluctuation points. And then any specific questions to this report, I'll leave to CFO for me.
I think it was, I don't have an answer, it was just a very wild year last year.
Yes, we all agree.
Moderate, is it moderating from first blush? I mean, you know, we could have a whole change in board policy again, and a whole lot of things go wild, but right now, is it moderating somewhat?
Amy Fleming, yes, it actually is moderating. So what we're seeing is that, some of our asylum seeking students, that we had last year are no longer with us. They've received either permanent housing, or they have potentially moved to another location. So we have seen some reductions in our enrollment count. And so October 1, it wasn't a big surprise. We did anticipate some of it, but we are a little bit lower than we originally projected, so.
And the reason I ask is I know that last year's legislature put out about $250,000, which we have a lion's share of, to help mitigate sipping from a fire hose, essentially. And so I'm wondering with moderation, and I know $750,000 was what Representative Berkowitz was identifying that would be likely released this year. Is it now diluted out across the region?
Potentially, it's not even a region, it's a statewide grant, and so we could potentially have interest on eastern side of the state. When we applied for the 250,000, I was on a call with about 8 school districts. Most of them were in this region, but we did have 2 districts from the other side of the state that had joined. So I believe that this round will be a lot more competitive. I think the needs, you're seeing the needs, you know, not only in Tukwila, but Seattle, Kent, Highline, you know, some of those areas. But I mean, Mapleton was even on the call, which surprised me a little bit. So, yeah.
I guess, I think that's just the way it is gonna go.
Yeah.
But there is some, to me, imbalance in this, because we're the ones that got hit first with the way caught behind unfunded mandates, struggling to keep up, and it doesn't, I wonder if that application includes some kind of retro recovery aspect to it, because it just feels like the train ran right over us, went by, we got a pretty good amount of 250,000.
Yeah.
But are still, in my personal opinion, recovering financially from that, where we had to step up and there was nothing there for us.
Yeah, we got the lion's share of it, and it was, since it was in spring of that Orion grant. That's real right that we're talking about, I'm assuming. I was tracking it, but I want to make sure, because we have several grants happening right now. It happened in spring, so it was recovery for the previous year, for the 23-24. This one's gonna be in fall. And so what I'm trying to do with grants, I think, and this is the conversation we're having all the time, is we don't have the staffing to do anything like really new, you know? We're trying to bring back what we had before that was already working, which is what we're trying to prioritize if we can, or enhance what we're already doing. And so, that's what we're looking at with this grant, because, when we get it, we probably won't even get the funds. Once we get approved, it'll probably be within a month or two anyway, through that process, and that'll probably be like January, and so, we'll have to, and so what we'll do is enhance what we're gonna be doing. So one thing we're looking at is, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, we went from 7 community liaisons to 4. But our needs the same, right? So how do we build back some of our community liaisons back into our schools? How do we have languages targeting the newer population that we have? We have double Spanish speakers, we have Portuguese speakers, on and on and on. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, and then the tutoring and all of those things. So we actually had some good things happening, and that's what we shared with our representatives, right? The reason why we functioned, I was gonna say, yes, it was pretty, so I just want to thank the teachers, first of all, because of their flexible and ability, and even the principals with all the constant enrollment. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough for their, but part of that reason why we did so well with that as a system is because we had systems in place. We had community liaisons, we had a quality special, we had these things already occurring. We had tracking systems, our transportation had those connections and tracking systems down. The reason why we handled it is because we had so many systems in place. And so what we're trying to do is we lost some of that, not all, but we lost some, and we're trying to build that back up because A, it's good for kids, right? And it's predictable and it works, right? It works. And so we're trying to build back and improve what we currently have going. So that's will be the emphasis with that, is making sure that whatever we do apply for is enhancing what we already have, and maybe there's probably 1 or 2 like tutoring or things like that we can do to add enhanced work for some of our specific students, but it'll be competition because they are in other places now too, so. Thank you. Yeah.
And we did hear, unfortunately, from Representative Gregerson, she said, we're not gonna give out backfill.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, but anyway, that's one representative, so I don't know what the process, but I was gonna say that one of the big things I watch on this enrollment report is, the FTE versus the budgeted. So right now, the budgeted, we made the budget assumptions based on 2620, we're right now at 2594, so a touch below, but that's a key one to watch. If that starts getting too far below, then that triggers some problems that we have to deal with, but.
Yes. It's something we're monitoring really closely. And that's why we've had to move, instead of hiring new people in some places, that's why we had to move people. Which is not fun to do in September to October. So that's what we had to do to prioritize our budget. And thank you, HR, and your support for all of that.
Thank you. Any more questions before we move on? Okay, so we're gonna go on to the interscholastic activities, non-athletic.
Can I ask a question on
I
that?
already did.
Done? Yep.
Okay, perfect. And then we'll move on to the risk management program. For policy 6500.
So. Yeah, I guess the concern in general about risk management is the cyber attack possibilities, and I understand you don't want to talk, get revealed too much because in a public meeting, because, we want to take measures, whatever they are. I just want to make sure that we're kind of on top of that one. It sounds like, and particularly since, our neighbors is still recovering from that one. So I just want to make sure that we're, I have pretty high confidence in our tech person because he's been doing it for a long time. And this is just kind of a check-in to make sure that you feel like that's pretty well covered.
Yeah. Aaron Dragana, HR Labor Relations and Tech, and pronouns. Yes, so the tech team is meeting weekly as well. It's got some problems with practice to come up, and that is on the front burner.
Okay. The other question I noticed on your annual loss revenue that there was, when you say auto, several of these auto categories that you said you're tracking. By auto, does that mean bus?
That's our transportation.
Okay, so it's anything, any vehicle that's moving essentially. And
Yes.
I'm just kind of curious, can you say what the concerns? do we-
Yeah, so one of the new trends that we saw this year, starting September 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2024, was an increase in just the number of our school buses that were involved in minor injuries or accidents. And they tended to be swipes, coming in or out of navigating parking lots and things of that nature on field trips. And out and about in the community. And so there were several incidents that just was a new that we're watching.
Okay. Yeah, I know we've been on a number of filters, and so that's a tricky thing for some tiny buses if they're going into a new environment and something, yeah, okay. It doesn't look like it's a huge problem, but just, yeah, okay. Fine.
I just had one question, because I went through several, I work in IT. And so I work for the administrative office, of course, we have a breach at one point. And it came in through our more our banking channel, clearinghouse channel, payrolls, and several incidents were hit at once. The incident's not important, but who came to our aid was a group that was out of Fort Lewis before. And I'm just wondering, do you have those connections to, I don't want you to say who they are or what your arrangement is, just that, do you have those kinds of safety nets in place at the second something bigger than all of this is happening? You were able to fall back and have them step in. Those are just incredible. Their knowledge of what goes on nationally, internationally, and how to stop a bleeding. And for the world to know, there is no bulletproof IT system anywhere. The only thing that makes it top caliber is how fast you detect it and isolate it. So that's, if you, without saying names of companies, how and contract and how fast it happens, can say with confidence, we've got something like that lined up. We'll be satisfied with that.
I can say with confidence that we do, and that we are actively taking measures to also just be aware of any vulnerabilities in the systems and are spending resources and time and effort on that, on those aspects.
And you're getting
Yeah.
groups who send alerts about things that are, people in the press don't find out until 12 weeks later. Okay.
Yes, and also the director is, well, actually, the director and the Tech 2 support team are connected to the staff in neighboring districts and are working together and talking about problems of practice and are having conversations about ways that they can be in front. There are a lot of lessons learned from what's happened recently in some of the surrounding districts that we're all learning from.
And the last question is, do we have the ability, if there was an exploitation of anything that had to do with the way we do payroll, do we have manual methods as a fallback?
I would say that, yes, I believe that the entity that we contract with for our financial system has a number of redundancies built into their systems, so that they could run a payroll, or they would make it a priority one. Usually in their disaster recovery, priority one is getting payroll back up so that they can run the processes.
Right, so let's focus there. I was with an organization probably 2 years ago. They and many like them were attacked at the payroll level, a very big company that many people have across the United States. And we immediately defaulted timesheets, written timesheets, it was painful. And all the supervisors had to vet them, and God knows what it was like in the United departments and payroll departments. But we held that for 4 weeks while we got everything figured out, isolated, cleaned out, set it. So the hard part is we're small, but mighty, but don't have a lot of staffing to do stuff with. But the blessing is that we're small And so it's easier to address at that level. Okay, I don't wanna know anymore, I'm just curious. If we have the ability to function if somebody latches on, okay?
Great, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? No? Perfect, thank you very much. All right, so we are going to move on to the capital projects plan and winterization update.
I'm a little curious about so you're looking to do the, pack lighting, I guess over 2 years, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Monday this year.
right, due to the funds, so we would like to start the project probably in July. So the cost of the project will probably will come out in the following year.
Okay. The question I have is, I mean, we took a few shots at getting, so we're proposing to pay for this out of our local capital projects levy. Took a few shots at getting that funding, because, I mean, basically that's about replacing with LED lighting.
Right,
Right.
and one of the reasons where, one of the, why the park went, the lighting park went, up, and it's because of the safety concern. Especially the lights, underneath and the stage area and the house area. So it's becoming, a concern, those lights has been there for since the beginning of the school. So, we would like to at least upgrade and change to, or try to change those to LED light. So at the moment, we're working with an architect and a theater company that is experts on stage lighting and such, so.
I guess-
But the only project would only be lighting.
Yeah, right. I guess my question is, do we have no other alternative? Because, I mean, that is a energy savings as well.
That too, correct.
And so, I mean, there's a variety of grants floating around,
Mhm.
maybe connected to the, CPA and different things at the state. I just want to make sure that, have we exhausted all our potential
Yes. and I
sources
believe-
from outside this local levy before we go up and do it ourselves?
So if you look into the, let me see what I have my paperwork, if you look into the grant that we applied for the, $12 million. Which is the,
The small rural model school.
Correct.
Yeah,
so, we are trying to see if we can get, the funds.
okay, so that's still pending.
It's still pending.
Okay, okay.
Right, and, let's see if I have that information, I'm sorry.
Okay,
We're
so-
looking into that, we're looking into that today.
So if that one came through, then we could fund it from there rather than, okay,
Correct.
okay,
So we're trying to apply as much grant
Yeah.
as we can,
yeah,
just to make sure that we don't use our levy money.
right,
So then that will free that our levy money to
Yep.
do all the other projects that we have.
okay, great, because it just sounds to me like, when I was talking to Representative Hackney on capital projects, we were talking about, some of the projects out of the state got funded because they had this environmental connection, so I just want to make sure, that's great, as long as we're,
And I have to give you an update on the 1 million, the one is the ED 204. Actually, we were planning to apply for that one, but we can't apply for that one because of the, request for the, paybacks that we need to provide to OSBI. So now they're requesting a 35-year payback for that. So I think that we're gonna just leave that one out of the, table because we don't have right at this moment an equivalent of something that will give us that amount of payback of the use of, in that one. So, we have done studies. We have actually used Apollo mechanical contractors to do our audits. So when we chose that project, to do the, in the kitchen, the, 100 unit and the makeup unit to be replaced. But when they did the studies and the engineers studies for that one, it doesn't give us enough data. For that particular, so we are actually were thinking about leaving that project on the table.
which one do we find on that?
That was the 1 million grant, that DOE, DE 020.
Oh, that one, okay.
Yeah.
I guess, so the other area that I didn't really see, but, and yeah, this one is maybe related to that, but, concerned about the air quality of that Cascade View, particularly the internal air quality. And I don't really see anything on here that addresses that. I mean, we know that's sitting under the, runway to the SeaTac airport, and I don't know if we've ever done any studies about indoor air quality at Cascade View and, like the number of students that have asthma. I know I've been on some field trips with us over the years, and the teachers are carrying these big bags of inhalers, which tells me that there's a lot of kids up there that have asthma. So I'm just curious to see how, are we, looking at that issue? I understand, to some degree, we're thinking in the long term, Cascade View is going to replace, but that's at least, I mean, even if a bond was passed in 28, it's another 3 years ago. So it's like 7 years, and that's like a generation of students passing through there. So I just really like this, see if we can, if there's some, at least figure out if the ventilation is possible to improve it with some reasonable amount of
Well,
extension.
information I have had about what you were actually asking for that particular, we need to install some sensors around the school.
Okay.
To make sure that we are reading the correct air in there. So those are things that we can do, but the sensors only indicate how much we have, so then we have to be working with the control companies to make sure that the sensors are connected with the system itself, to make sure that put more air into the building or close our damage. So we can start, that's one of the possibilities that we can start looking into it for just that school.
Okay, yeah, I like the issue. And have we ever gone back and tested the lead in the water? That's the other big safety one that comes up at all our buildings to make sure. I mean, did that a few years ago, and I think we fixed the big ones that were big problems, but.
Correct. Let me go into my file, because Dr. Pedrosa sent me information about the Department of Health are starting now with lead in the water. I reached to them, and the Department of Health is just starting to do studies for, are they going to start with school districts that they have not had any testing, have not submitted any testing. So having the conversations with them, they stated that the closed school district had to comply with all the legal obligations on the lead in the water. We have done, the last testing we've done was in 2018, and based on that information from the board, they wanted everything below the 3 parts per billion. And then we have, at that moment, we presented all the documentation to the Department of Health. So with that said, they are telling us that we are in the back of the list if we want to have the Department of Health do our testing and working back in line. So we have two choices, or the local school district does it on its own, which I had some cost related to that, or we wait until the Department of Health gets us into their schedule.
Or we could do some kind of strategic testing in buildings that we think might. I mean, I don't think, as I recall, we kind of postponed doing the testing in Foster because during the remodel.
Right, but at Foster, when we did the remodel, we're replacing like maybe 80% of all our.
Okay.
We have brand new fountains. All the bathrooms were done.
Yeah, right.
All the rest of that. The kitchen was also upgraded. At that time, construction time, most of the water was done. Was done. It may be one or two that fountains that were not updated, especially in the gym, but most of them were updated and upgraded during the remodel. So
well, then it might be just testing those few places that we know have, we should check on.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like drinking fountains in the gym, that's, I don't know what the athletics teams are doing, whether they have their own water bottles with them, or but if they're drinking out of the fountain in the gym and it's not very good, then that's a problem. So anyway,
Yeah, if we're expensive here and there, one or the other would be that expensive, but if we wanted to
Yeah,
do it for the
right.
whole school district, then we're
Yeah.
talking about thousands, yeah.
Okay,
So, okay, just so I'm clear, because I don't want to leave this. So is this going to be something that you're requesting, Director Larson, that this be done for these here? Or is this something we're just talking about needs to be taken offline? What, I mean, let's,
you talking about
getting the water tested in the specific areas. I want to make sure that if that's important, that we're going to see it through. And then
Yeah.
it won't be, because I remember having this conversation before.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then we're here again, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see, the kind of do strategic thinking on it, so if there are some water, I remember at Foster before the remodel, there was some significant lead in some of the bathroom fixtures. And the students were telling us, students were going in with their cups, cup of noodles and filling up in there. And that can't happen. So if we can go test the ones that we know haven't been tested, I mean, not necessarily the ones that, have been replaced, but test the ones that have not been tested and, students may be using. I think that would be a really good
So
thing.
we
to
need
do.
to get an estimate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna get an estimate
Yeah.
of the cost, and
Sure.
it's not levy eligible, so this would have to come out of our general fund.
Okay.
General fund being really tight, so
Right.
we'll have to get some estimates.
Yeah,
of what those
okay.
costs are, to see if we can do it this year, or maybe we delay.
Yeah.
To the following year.
No, but
So we're talking about testing the water, right?
Yeah.
So. When we say estimates, is that something that we have to have a company, an outside contractor to do?
Yeah.
We can't test it ourselves.
No, because those reports have to be certified.
Yeah.
And then be sent
Okay.
to the Department of Health.
Super, so when can we then expect to get this, what an estimate will cost? From,
Approximately on a very, it would be over $20,000 for a very, not a very, an approximate amount. So I did already had conversations with PPS Environmental. And an approximate amount of, and that amount was including all schools. And it's all drinkable water. So bathrooms are not counted in that test. Because they are not supposed to be drinkable for, and I remember the couple of story. But it's supposed to be for water that are used for consumption, for drinking, but, so I have a list of all the testing that we did. And, so it's mostly drinking fountains, it's sinks that inside classrooms. Like, for example, in the music room, we have a couple of sinks in there, things like that. So, but they're not specific, they're not gonna pay for bathroom testing.
Well, and
Kitchen.
the other side of that, then we need to make sure that our students know not to use the bathroom.
Yeah. Any bottle will be tested, that we have, but yeah.
okay, so just so I'm clear. You said it was $20,000 to get everything tested, right? Well, I think what we're asking for is just what would be a scaled down cost of some specific areas that the students are using for their cup of noodles, right? That's what
Or drinking, whatever, yeah.
right, so drinking areas. So if we could have something together would be great, just what that would cost, so we better understand what that's gonna mean, and.
Specifically testing or actually replacing?
Well, we have to do testing first.
Yeah.
Are we potentially posting when the bathrooms do not drink the water? Is that?
I'm sorry,
Is it posted in the bathrooms and et cetera, that the water's not potable, do not drink the water?
No, the water is horrible. I'm sorry, pardon my accent.
Yeah.
Right, you can drink the water. The thing is, the problem is that the Department of Health doesn't, we won't pay for a
I
testing.
heard that.
Yeah.
But my question is, if we can't afford to test it and it's saying it's problematic, at least labor. It's about 16, I wouldn't know. But that's cheaper than $20,000.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Because with the $20,000, you're not even testing that though.
no, but yes. We're not this.
So we're not testing the water.
Mine could be done positively and saying,
100%.
please use the drinking fountain and
Yeah.
disposal in the bathroom. I think, so summarizing, so I can understand.
Yep.
So some signage for at least, you know, at the high school level and middle school too, probably, and the bathrooms, just in a positive affirmation way, saying, remember, please use the drinking fountains for consumable water or drinking water, whatever. We can think of that. That's one thing I heard. And then the last part I'm hearing, because we recognize that we are under fiscal concerns, $20,000. If we can scale it down, and so Liliana, you probably know where those areas we need to test. Especially like the areas maybe with the older pipes, I would think, those the older things, so we can test our water. And maybe do a sample, not necessarily all, but a sample of one area of the newer pipes. And then find out how much that would cost us as a smaller scale analysis with the plan to do a larger scale the following year. So I think that's what the board's asking, and I think, and then they'll want to have that information. That's something that they're asking for. So, I'm moving. I'm gonna ask the board to take a motion. Yeah, I'm doing the motion that the board make a motion to sort of say that's what you want to do, and we'll move forward, and we'll have, Ms. Fleming and Ms. Cardenas work on that together and get something within the next month moving on that. That'd be. So go ahead. So moved.
So moved. Second.
Can we hear do students have any ideas on this whole discussion? It affects you.
It's your water. I like it. He's got my laugh.
So from my understanding, like the water from the water fountains is safe, it's just not completely confirmed that the water from the sinks is safe, right?
No, I didn't say that. What I said was that the water is safe to drink. What I said is that the Department of Health won't test the water of that in the restrooms. So what they will test are what is supposed to be uses for consuming water, your fountains, the sink that you use in your classroom, for example, all the bubblers that are in the classroom, the kitchen area where they use water to prepare. So those are the areas that the Department of Health tests, right? So we didn't test on the last time, we didn't test the sinks in the bathrooms. It's not also hygiene to be putting water in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
In that time, I know also that the food service department provides water outside, the kitchen area for you guys to be able to drink with your meals and such. So, it's not convenient to do it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, thank you for the clarification, but, yeah, from a student perspective, I think thinking practically, I don't think people would be using the sinks in the bathroom to fill their cup of noodles, because like we have those fancy water fountains where you can just like do like this and like fill your water bottle, so I think it's way more likely that students are gonna use that rather than the sink in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I also do think it could also be a good idea maybe to, as of now, maybe have, what did you see, like a sign, just like, warning students, because students, like, there's still a chance that some students are gonna use it, and it's obviously gonna get on their hands, the students are using that water to like wash their hands, so just for like students to like know and be aware, that could be important, but I think thinking practically, I don't think students would be consuming that water.
It happened before though.
Okay.
So that's why, that's why we bring it up.
That was before the remodel. Now with the nice new water. Yeah, that's kind of makes sense.
You've got a set of pipes out there, no, new ones and maybe some old ones, I remember
That's
making
right,
budget
yeah.
decisions on whether or not we had replaced pipes or drinking fountains in some areas to save money when we we're gonna go for the mission, so, that's way back when. So the only concern I think any parent or a student is gonna have is you have old pipes that have lead in them or some toxin that's gonna, harm our students. So the testing from the DOH says we don't do in some areas because we expect you not to drink out of bathroom sinks. But none of that negates the fact that we expect it to be potable water, because it's supposed to be okay. So my only concern, I don't mind if DOH has a little $20,000 grant to review some independent study or whatever. The motion here is let's do that and then follow along with the deeper dive later, when it's all money or different grant money. And amongst that deeper dive, I would expect we have some kind of tracking on what pipes we replace, what are brand new to begin with, and ones we never touched that we have.
So
That
we,
was the motion.
that's the motion, that we do a scaled down test, that we hire an outside contractor to test specific areas of the water, do samplings of, so I'm just summarizing, do samplings of some areas that weren't replaced. And making sure the drinkable areas there, that could be potentially be drinkable areas too, because we know kids will drink. I'm gonna be honest, I've been guilty of taking my thing and going to the bathroom and. I'm not here, but I've done it before, because I've been at the closest one, so I've done it, so I've done it, so. So a small scale, and then also a sampling of some of our other drinking areas. I think that's just of the replaced areas. We can't do full scale, but I think proposal to do that smaller scale. So I think that we have a plan moving forward, and that they're gonna have something started within the next month with a report to you at a later date, okay?
And just one last thing on the signage, that's totally separate.
Yeah, that's
That's
separate.
educating kids
Yeah.
that it's not very sanitary to bring your lunch food in there, do a whole lot of things.
Don't do what the superintendent did.
Right?
So I wanted that.
I don't want to speak
some of
this
that,
down.
see what
Remember,
Yeah.
with that.
we have
Okay.
demographics
Correct.
that are impacted differently.
Yeah.
I mean, in the elementary, you still teach them to wash their hands.
Yeah.
And high school, you still are.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject. Two, we have a lot of asylum seekers, and you don't know what the climate and the culture and the water was like wherever they came from. And I'm not assuming what I'm saying, so the reason the health department won't test it, because they assume you got enough sense not to drink,
Right.
but I don't know if we.
And we
I don't
are,
know if the students know that.
well, and I'm gonna go, what you're saying is we're a teaching institution, that's what you're saying. And it's our job to teach, and so the signage part is something we can take care of. And I think we can say it very nicely, like just reminder, I go to the restaurant and they say, workers, wash your hands, and I always look at that sign and think, thank you. To wash your hands before you make my food, I appreciate that, same with our students, please remember, use the actual drinking fountains outside or something like that. Maybe we can put a wash your hands sign up there too.
And water from the drink fountains.
I've seen some adults not do that, so. Okay, so I think we have a plan moving forward. Okay, good. Are there any questions?
I have a question, in regards to drinking fountains and lead. I thought I heard you say that some of the drinking fountains in the gymnasium or the athletics wing were not replaced during
During
the remodel?
construction, yeah, during construction, no, and we replaced mostly all of them. We did not replace the one in the gym, and we did not replace the ones in the music hall.
Okay, I feel like,
So those are I believe there are only 3 drinking fountains on that location, 2 in inside the big gym, the main gym, and then I believe there is, if it's not 1, it's 2 in the music hallway, 3 of them, yeah. The rest were.
yeah, I know personally, those water fountains are very much used both by people, in gym classes, but also by the band, by the, drama kids, we all drink from that. So if those are, I'm drinking that.
So it should be a priority, is what I'm hearing.
Like high priority,
Yeah,
especially athletics,
Yeah, that's good to know, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
glad you're here. So.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second, All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other questions on our presentation?
No, that's done.
Okay, we are moving on to our technology plan for 2024. Is there any questions?
Yeah, so, I'm sorry to see that the robotic programs at the elementary schools have basically ceased at this point in time. I think that's not consistent. I need to, take access to that away from our students. You know, I mean, STEM is a field that's increasing, not decreasing in terms of access to good jobs and so forth. So for me, that should be, I don't really see that in the technology plan. I mean, other than, I don't know, we've had. So currently there's a robotics program still alive and well at the high school, and that's going well. We've been trying to get one going at Showalter for years, and it never happens for one reason or another. And now we're kind of dropping all the programs at the elementary school. So I don't know, to me, we need to figure out some way to get that going again. And it sounds, from what I've observed over the last couple of years, it sounds like and it's multiple faceted, of course, but it's kind of being shoved aside by sports to some degree. I see, and you know, you talk about it, the Showalter, there was, you know, the under sports said it. We need to think, I mean, I have nothing in sports, but we need to figure out a way to have access to both sports and, you know, the STEM programs as well. So, I mean, I'd like to, like I say, see in the plan, you know, kind of some specific action items to get that going again. And if it's, you know, if we need to go outside, if there's nobody, you know, our staff that's willing to take it on, you know, I know, I mean, the robotics program at the high school has advisors from, you know, outside companies and so forth. And, you know, we have this company down there that's the HI company. I mean, are these, can we initiate something to get somebody outside to come in and do the program or whatever, you know? I mean, we need to get those programs back. Also because we have a huge amount of investment in equipment. I know in the STEAM labs, the learning labs, and you know, it's just semi-criminal to have it sitting there doing nothing when our students need to have access to that. So that's kind of we somehow need to make this a priority in the technology kind of going forward.
Do a follow-up, Aaron Dragano, HR Relations. And so the district is actually not opposed to, we have not shut down the robotics program.
Yeah, I know you're not opposed to it.
Not at all. And so what we have done is negotiated a stipend for educators that are interested in leading the robotics program before or after school. Typically, it's been done after school at the elementary level. And so one of the tasks that we have with the tech team is putting out something maybe through the weekly bulletin, getting people excited about it, you know, K-12, pre-K-12, because of, you know, what's happening at the high school level with, you know, the program that's being during class, after school, and then competing and featuring that. And so that is in the works. We have had like participation at strong participation in one of the elementary schools in the past, and so maybe building off of that as well. But we definitely have everything that we need to get it up and running, even compensation. It's just making sure that we get the adult participation.
Yeah, maybe a little more.
And the same thing with middle school. Like, we actually have someone interested, it's just there's a conflict with coaching sports right now. So
Do we have people interested at the elementary?
we have not, but that's why we're going to take additional steps to promote it, get other people excited about it. Because not everybody may know about it or how they can contribute or be part of it.
Have we thought about the high school students, coming down and also teaching some and making that part of a stipend also? Is that an option or?
That could be an option. We have student employees.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you the robotics program at Foster is very intense. If you can go up there during the time up to their competition, you'll see them in there on the weekends at nights, and so it's a pretty intense, but yeah, I mean, that's a good idea to explore for sure, if we can, but they spend a lot of time on that program, so.
Just students, I was just even thinking somebody who maybe have graduated.
Yeah,
and then,
sure.
You know, is
Yeah.
going to college, maybe
Yeah.
they wanna come back.
Yeah.
And maybe reach out, I'm just, you know, whatever, we can keep it going would be great, especially if it sounds like there's monies there for it. So,
And also, when we're hiring new teachers, you know, that could be a criteria for, do they have this, you know, interest in something capability, because it's a little bit intimidating. I mean, having worked with the teachers for 10 years in that program, it's a little intimidating. I mean, you have to be willing to get in there and roll up your sleeves, so. Okay, so, yeah, I don't know if you can put that in the technology plan somewhere, but it's kind of, sounds like it's basically there. It isn't probably documented necessarily, but it's included, so.
it says continue supporting the 4-5 robotics program in elementary schools, it is in there
Okay,
for 24 through 28.
The only question I have is, what input went into this? Was it just the tech staff, or did you talk to the SAM faculty? Did you talk to student representatives? What kind of stakeholders had input on this? And then what had input in terms of evaluating?
Yeah, so the input came from conversations with the tech team, first of all, and looking through previous plans. So it's a little bit different lens on previous tech plans that we've had in the district. And then conversations with elementary students, middle school students, and high school students. Had conversations with the city staff. There's a gentleman that's especially around the Chromebook partnership that we have. And the city staff at Tukwila, and district administrators as well. Incredible. And then we also met with members of the, we're on a couple different committees on the tech team, and so like we're with the Equity and Social Justice Commission and other committees within the city, and got some input there as well.
Okay, and are we memorializing things that fall off the list because we don't have the staff, we don't have money, we don't have bandwidth? Whatever is holding it back, do we have? Kind of like, I'm just an agile project type person that says you always gotta have a backlog.
Yeah.
The things that if you found a magical way to do it and institute it, because everybody, I don't care how big your company is, everybody's got technical debt, right?
Yeah.
Schools greater than other organizations. Technical debt for people is they just simply don't have enough people on staff to get all the technology things done. And so you either have lots of money and hire people to do it, or you get that backlog going and say, and you're constantly reprioritizing. Are you tracking stuff that kind of fell off since we had cuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the tech department did take, take on some of those reductions, the 1.0, 1.5 FTE actually.
Right.
With less than 5 people in general supporting the district, so that's significant.
Yeah.
And I think what's helpful is the running records that the tech department has maintained, and including inventory, things like that. And so, yes, there is that record. And then, also maintaining a vision for what the tech department can be in Tukwila, and how the tech department can support student learning, student growth, staff success in the classroom as well.
the other part of the robotics, I don't know how, to what degree in the creative learning labs, I mean, that's, robotics is part of that, and I don't know, in some schools it may be a bigger component, and in other schools, I don't know how much that's included, but that's the other part of it is. And that's also a way of getting students interested in it, because they can sample it essentially.
Yeah, the Creative Learning Lab system had, so there was a training held, this summer. The first training, and Sean Yu was actually the facilitator of that training, was the director, one for the school district. And, the intent is to, them to form a PLC, professional learning community, and build that in. There are several robotics units that are built
Yeah,
into the
right.
CLS curriculum that we subscribe.
Right,
And so the training is happening around that. So there is, I would agree, so there is some exposure to robotics through that for every K-5 student. But we don't have that after school emphasis or before school club, that's meeting like we do at that secondary level. Yeah.
right. I did ask the question about, does the district have enough devices that every student can have their own one in the classroom? So I heard from a teacher at Showalter that in her classroom, they're sharing a device, which should not happen, right?
Yeah, we have plenty of devices.
Okay,
And so, go ahead.
yeah, no, it was disconnect there, so it sounds like that teacher should get in contact with the
Yes,
tech staff and,
yeah,
because it's not, she doesn't need to do that.
correct. Every Chromebook card will, can be equipped with the max number of.
Yeah,
units that are
okay.
there. So, yeah.
And then on professional development, it's a small number, I get it, big staff, not a lot of money. I know through the county, in some of the subscriptions and things that we have. With Microsoft, for instance, that they have entire, workshops that last like 2 to 3 days. And we go to for free just because we have these subscriptions. I'm hoping that we take advantage of some of that.
Yeah. So comment on professional development. So Darren Hayes, who works with the instructional technology aspects of the work, has created a library of videos, instructional videos that staff can access. And so staff and actually students as well, can access that, during the workday. And so there isn't a requirement necessarily for all PD to take place outside of the workday and to require extra compensation.
Yeah, by the way, we should get a presentation from him because he does an excellent, he's been doing an excellent, he kind of sits behind the scenes, but he's been doing an excellent job of enabling all our teaching staff to use whatever the latest technology is. So it would be good to have, recognize all the work he does, and I think for everybody to hear what he does. I mean, I've seen him at work and at some conferences and so forth, and so anyway.
He was critical in our AI, working with Naomi and other things, but with developing our AI guidance as well. So he's been invested in that. So, and our AI guidance is, because, we've been out of the equity pieces. It's, I got to present our AI guidance to Highline College. They wanted to hear from the school district about the work we're doing. So I think it's great. Yeah, that's important. So I wrote that down, Director Larson. We're very amazed to do a presentation.
And the only thing that disturbed me a little bit, maybe it's in the part of schools and I'm not used to it yet, was to hear that, there's an attrition rate for the Chromebooks, like get assimilated in the family that moves away or whatever the case is. Is that somehow embedded in our plan to know that, loss leader happens?
So, and we were speaking specifically to the Chromebooks that were part of the city and Tukwila grant. And I spoke with Mr. Bush about that at the city, and he actually, he wrote that into the grant that was a possibility, just knowing that we have people that are moving. And they may need that device at their new location, and we're okay with that. For these particular devices, the district actually and the city are not expecting those particular devices to be returned. And that was built into the grant.
That's excellent. And do we track that? I mean, there's a difference between like, we know somebody moved to Auburn and then we're going to schools and now using our Chromebook.
Yeah.
That's good, it's healing, it's good. But one that just completely disappeared, we have no idea where it went. That's stewardship, right? And
So, your question, so there are 11 devices that are not accounted for any longer of the 157 that have been deployed,
That's pretty good.
which is actually really good.
Yeah.
And there are other devices that, have, moved on, but we know, so we do have the record
Okay.
of where all of the devices minus 11
Yeah.
are.
I just hate to see them all showing up on whatever social media for sale.
Yeah.
Figured out a new revenue stream.
Well,
And
and
they
I
actually-
don't think those devices are useful
Correct.
outside of, because they're tied to a specific communication network that's in
Yeah.
Tukwila, so they're not really useful anywhere else.
Yeah, they're connected to our network, actually, the district's network and then the city's
Yeah, yeah,
infrastructure.
yeah.
Okay.
Great. Any more questions on the technology plan?
Nice job.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the school safety plan. Are there any questions for the school safety plan?
I guess you kind of, the safety plan.
Yes.
So this, I guess, I had at some open house, I had some, some comments from parents about, I'm trying to understand the safety plan, and this document is not really consumable by parents, I don't think. It's an internal document, which is fine, but I think there is a need for a kind of a simplified version, particularly how parents interact with the system. And so I think that would be, you indicated this, you could potentially think about doing that, because I think that would answer a lot of their questions about, what's going on here on the radio, the schools in whatever lockdown, what should I do, and those kinds of things, where I should get information. So I think that would be helpful. I was curious about the statement in there that schools, should discourage the use of cell phones. We know, as long as our students have cell phones in their possession, they're gonna be used in an emergency situation. That's kind of inevitable. And as long as, I guess we just understand that that's the realities of life.
I think so, yeah, Scott, Whitbeck, Chief of Academics and Schools, pronouns he, him. I appreciate the questions later because you mentioned parent guide and definitions. I agree that would be very helpful. Just example, there's always that question of lockdown versus lockout, like what's the difference, shelter in place?
Yeah.
So definitions
Right.
and what does that mean for school? So we could definitely put that together easily.
And I think having some training around that, because I know when I was talking to some teachers, like I guess they do, they weren't, and this is a couple of years ago, but they weren't really clear on some of that, and
Right.
Also.
It wasn't a couple of years ago. I was.
Okay.
For that conversation, that was probably last year.
Okay.
I remember that conversation. You
Yeah.
weren't clear.
And it's also, some of the older buildings, a lot of times, a full lockdown is you're supposed to lock your room and then close and, it's not necessarily clear in some of the older rooms how you lock, how you lock your room. Like the steam lab up there had this weird twist to how to do it, and it took the teacher a couple years to figure that out. So just making sure that everybody's thought through in their mind, okay, when this happens, this is what I need to do, and am I, do I have all my ducks in order? So that kind of training, I don't know how much of that is done, but we need to make sure that everybody knows exactly what to do.
Yes, great point. We've done some of that through our principals' ongoing meetings.
Okay.
And shared information that they can then train the staff, but
Yeah.
when it comes to safety, you're never too prepared.
Right.
So it's good for us to keep doing that, even something like, plans for teachers, the big cascade you at the library and the STEAM lab are across from each other. Who has a key to lock doors?
Right.
And do you have availability if there's a sub, and the person who has a key has a sub, do they know how to get the key?
Right.
So just the logistics
Yeah.
like that need to
Right.
be planned, yes.
Right.
My question was, is the SRO included in these plans that we have now, since we have that here? Are they
Yes.
included in how this works out and the different things?
Yes.
Okay.
Partly if you look through the plan, near the back, it will show the communication tree or who's in charge of what. And that's where, school teams who've come up with the plans have put in this, resource officer.
Okay.
So it's not very well organized, but nationally there's then called, CERT, which is, basically community, or citizen emergency, response teams. And we learn what we learn from the fire departments and police departments, how we fit in. Here in the Tukwila, there's actually a Tukwila Emergency Communications Team. It's won award from governor before to practice like with Great Shakedown, et cetera. And they have coordinated and helped get fire personnel to get their ham radio licenses so we can communicate during emergencies. I live down the street from Cascade Elementary. This is the first time I've looked at a safety plan from them. And I don't mind that. That's kind of great that they're gonna set up a command center because that's what the CERT people are gonna do in your parking lot. So, but the thing that's interesting is that I really think I'm gonna set up a command center in that parking lot. Do they all know that? Does the police know what your plan is? Does the fire department know what your plan is? Do you know what they think their plan is? And then those fringy people like us, CERT people who may come right at the hill too, saying.
Right.
And then what does it look like? I'm just staring at the earthquake right now. Does everybody stay, shelter in place? Or do you try to amass everybody, get people in the buildings and get them magically home with a bus system that may or may not be able to use the roads?
Yes, if there's. The plan, Joe, is do the cover hold on.
We have to have so we have to be accountable for every student.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a reunification process in place.
Okay.
And what we usually do is when there is a response, I actually lived through an actual earthquake once, and I was a principal. So there has to be a reunification process, and then so we can't just like let the students know, right? We have to have a process in place. That's why this incident command center is critical. And then depending on and then we take direction as soon as, the principal and the safety team are the ones that triage all of that in the building. But as soon as the first responders arrive, then we actually retreat and have them take over. And then we go ahead and then make sure we're focusing on the reunification for our families. Any families that can be there to support, that we can take to send off, we do that. So that's why we have to have those sheets and the updates and the staffing, and then the next, I get really excited about this kind of stuff, sorry. And then the next piece, the next piece is then we have to make sure that any students that can't be reunified with their families, we have to make sure that staff is available to stay with them until they can safely be reunified with their families. And that's why we have to make sure that that's why this is important to have school-based plans, because we can have a district plan. And I'll just say, I just want to thank Chief Whitbeck. This was his initiative to make sure we have a streamlined plan, start here. To make sure, and we'll continue to improve, but that is the incident command response, and I'm sure I left off something, but our goal is to make sure every child is reunified safely and they're accounted for, because what we don't want is a student not to be accounted for, and then we find out something happened down the road. So
I'm impressed with this. What I'm concerned about is, has the fire department ever seen this?
I know I can answer that. Part of this is we were waiting to get feedback on this. Since we're using a new template this year, which was triage reviewed, vetted by partner district who had attorneys and risk management people. So we felt safe, secure that this is a good template. But so once we get they've got the solid base in their schools, it takes a little time to get this because they're engaging people in the plans. It's not just the principal writing this. So that is a few months. So that's why it's taken a while. But once we have this firm, that is our good solid plan. Knowing that the plan is still a living document, because then we start looking at the details like you've talked about. This is structured it'll get you by. We want to start looking about what if this. And like Dr. Pedrosa said, the reunification plan, you know, that it's just very critical. You have your student sheet who is actually attending that, who's absent, the subs there that day, they have the sheets. And knowing who it is that goes with whom.
Well, they used to tell us, you know, make a plan, build a kit for 3 days. Now,
Yes.
then they moved it to 7 days. Now they're thinking 2 to 3 weeks, you may not see any responders, so.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah.
But not one, I would expect our responders to go to places that have large numbers of children. But it'd be nice if they knew what they were doing before
Yes.
they arrived.
But one,
Synchronizes somehow.
well, one helpful thing I participate on the community groups, COPCAB, it's a community
Yeah.
police advisory board. Yeah, so Katrina Dome broke me, I mean, volunteered me in. So, but it's a great connection, getting to know the community, and so we have our monthly meetings. This is something I would like to bring back since Chief Trevor and Deputy Chief Lund always are there.
Yep.
So this is something I can ask them and their teams to also review, what can they do to be part of this, and what do they see are the gaps on plans?
Right.
And also I want to check in with our fire department UTs to see also.
We also coordinate with the city of Tukwila as well. We've been doing some convenings with city of Tukwila, the emergency management. We're trying to make sure that all of our partnerships
Just so
are.
they all know what happens when they
Right.
on your property.
Yeah.
They know what to expect already that you're doing, and it's synchronized.
But even one thing that's hard to think about is you have your evacuation place, you go to something that causes your property to not be, you can't stay there.
Yeah.
But what happens if the property you're going to is also a mess? So you have to have a back redundancy, yes, plan B. So there's a lot to it, and I think as we go along, we just keep this on the forefront, front burner, so it's never just put away in the phone, we keep it available and keep refining it, finding things that are missing or not solid. And adding it, and then making sure staff is trained, and subs are aware when they come to the building. Here's your sub welcome packet, glad you're here. Here's also, be prepared, just in case, hope it doesn't happen, here's what you would do. So everybody who's in should know what what to do.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, so if there's no more questions, that will end our part of the meeting there, and we're gonna move on to the approval of the human resource staffing report.
Thank you.
So moved.
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now moving on to B, approval of the school improvement plans.
So moved.
Second,
Now, okay, this one,
okay,
Well, we can have discussion, we can one
Yeah.
discuss.
yeah,
pardon me,
yes, go ahead, yes.
I did a motion, I know that.
We did, we're ready for discussion.
now
no, we're in discussion.
Yep.
Yeah, so this one I'm a little confused about, because you're kind of being asked to approve a draft, which doesn't make any sense to me. This should just be, you know, board discussion.
Agreed.
So I'm not gonna vote to approve a draft. That doesn't really make any sense, but I understand, you know, as far as comments on it, I guess the big, well, couple of comments. One is you're giving us, you know, kind of one of OSBI's, you know, infamous, long, complicated documents. It's really hard to consume. It would be nice if, for the benefit of us and the public, to have the SIP plans come to us in a little more digestible format, which would include basically the goals, which are distributed throughout, and then, you know, also the other part of this, the big thing that's missing for me is what were last year's goals, and I mean, that's the ongoing discussion I've had for years about SIP plans, is we need to start with what were last year's goals? Did we achieve them or not achieve them? If so, why not? And then move on to the next year's goals, and here's what we're doing. So that's just kind of the simple format, that, you know, I'd like to see these in. I mean, the goals are kind of there, the next year's goals are buried in here that I can kind of see, but I don't see anything about, we need to I mean, that's how you do continuous improvement, is you look at last year's goals and see
How far you got?
how you did, what you made, what you didn't make, and then feed it into the shoes goal. So that's the whole structure of it. And it seems like so often around here, every year is a benchmark year, which means we never go back and look at us, and I don't buy that. We can't be doing benchmark years forever. We need to do.
At some point, you have a foundation and start planning.
Yeah, like now, and there were goals last year. There were some goals.
And we did look at them, so I just want to say that the school leaders did look at their data.
Yes.
So it's just not highlighted here, but they did look at their data when they revised their plans. They spent time in August and September and October in school leaders meeting, looking at all their data to revise the plans. They met with their OSSI coach and to revise and get input on the plan. So I just want to share, there was a lot of work. So just, we sent the plans to do what you're asking us to do is to recreate a whole other template. That's gonna be a lot of work, so we'll have to figure out how to do that best, because that's gonna be a lot of work for the principals. This is the plan we're sending that the state's requiring us to do. Foster High School's plan is a little different because they aren't on the OSSI list. But we can figure out that piece in terms of the goals. It might just be, we have to spend some time lifting those up and thinking, but they did do. I just wanna say, I don't want us to leave here to not think that the leadership teams and they did look at the data. They looked at last year's data and then they revised the goals based on last year's data. So I just wanna, and that's the conversation we even had last in the work session
Yes.
2 weeks ago to look at, we looked at the data to provide the changes to the strategic plan as well. So I just wanted to state that just to make sure that people, I wanna make sure that the leadership teams get honored for the work.
Right, yeah, they did dig into their data online and had revised their plan specifically based, especially the state testing. And then the beginning middle end of year test for last year for iReady, reading and math to see, like you said, do they make gains? If not, well, what are you gonna do different? So
Yeah,
they
which
did.
is great. I just need to see it.
Okay,
Tell me about it.
okay,
So for the
That's
record,
all.
this year's goals,
Mhm.
Superintendent, you're confident.
Yeah.
Have an assessment from the progress of last year's goals.
I was here in the room with the principals when they done it.
I'm
Yeah.
just keeping it on the record.
Yeah, on the record, absolutely. And our OSI side coach, who's from the state, also met with our school leaders to review the goals and to analyze their school improvement goals and enhancements and gave feedback to all the plans as well. So I just wanted to say that's, yeah, and
That's important.
yeah, and I think that is important, and I also want to state, so you're asking for us to change, basically to change the template and revise the plan template, so I just want to make sure that if we do that, that we can't get that, because my goal is to get this finalized and take this off of, put it on review, and then bring it as action. By state law, we have to have them approved by January. So if you want the format completely different, we have to make sure that we do that.
So let's go back.
Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I hear, and he's talking about trying to recognize to speak for himself, but I think if the objective is that to make sure we're not just making new goals each year without any
Yeah,
a review on the progress of previous goals, and I hear you say that this year's goals were derived and including the assessments of last year's goals. Point taken, if you're satisfied, that's what's up. Now, if the next part of that conversation is there data or minutes from that conversation so that those of us who were not in it can ask those questions, where does item A relate to where it was last year and item C? Because that's legit, that doesn't require a whole new template, but is there a discussion around how you got to where you got to in relation to where it was?
and I'm not saying
I
we
think
can't
that
do that. I'm not saying, yeah, I'm not saying we can't do that, I'm
But
just
it's
saying.
not necessary if
Yeah.
what you're saying is accurate.
and Hannah does, the state, coach.
Yeah.
Who, oversees all of our mandatory participation schools, we have New York paid schools. She has, I believe she has, for her own, accountability for a job, she tracks the notes that she's made in her, coaching conversations with each principal. So that's something that would be a public document.
And I'm not,
Before
I'm not.
we go down the rabbit hole, any further on the detail, I want to go with the first question, which was the most important. Here's a document that is labeled draft. Where I come from, governance is people look at drafts all the time and improve them and they become final. Is that the intent?
Yes.
Of bringing this before us, and then I heard
you have to have it before January, so we've got a couple of meetings to get from here to there.
Yes.
So it's on the action, is the action tonight to do what we're doing, talk about the details and how we want it to really look? Or is the action tonight to approve it, to get it on its way to delivering the mandated delivery of the report that might be a template for all I know.
It's, and you're right, thank you for bringing up, that is a good context. The, Dr. Pedrosa said the template that Arcade schools use is mandated template by the state. If you're a manager, sir, you can't mess with that. You can add your own sport documents, but you can't change the template.
It doesn't negate Dave's interest in redisplay somehow, but it might not be in this document.
Right.
Okay.
And so in that case, that's where you left, I know it's probably a little vague in my brief cover memo for this, but not knowing in advance exactly what the board might want to see, this might be something you say, okay, this is satisfactory to meet the state's requirement to have a plan. And Hannah, or the coach, I said, how does this compare to the districts? She said, this is much better than the average school plan.
Okay.
So she said, there's no such thing as perfect, but she said, this is very good. There's nothing at the state level that they want to see that's even like marginally not there. It's solidly there.
Okay.
So from their perspective, it's solid. The high school plan was adapted. They're not required to have a certain template, but you notice they still cover the same types of goals.
But I don't want to negate what Director Larson said. I want to make sure that we sort of think that through a little bit. So, Director Larson, are you okay with me emailing you back and forth and drafting some sort of thinking around what you would like? Because if you like this and present it in a different format, I just need to make sure when I work with teaching and learning, and then I have to make sure that we figure out an easier way to do it so that I don't want to burden this leadership team, because they should be focused on teaching and they should be focused on implementing their plan. But I want to make sure that, because I'll just say the reason why I'm saying that, I'm interested in your what you'd like to see, because actually one of Scott's goals last year was to redraft a school improvement plan. So guess what, Scott? Guess what your goal is now, to add to your goal before, anyway. That was one of the things he was gonna work on, is, because in some districts, actually, to be honest, I'll just share this. Schools that are improved, there's a district school improvement plan and the state plan, and the schools are required to do both. I don't wanna put too much work on the schools to do that, but if there's something that we can do to pull data out from our own lens to bring it out, to hear what you wanna hear, I'm willing to invest in looking at some type of template. I wanna make sure that we honor that. If it's simpler for the community, if it's simpler for families, if it's simpler for community, I wanna think about that. But I also wanna make sure that I do it in a way that also honors the leadership teams that have invested a lot of time and effort into this process.
Yeah, so I'm not looking for a new template. This is the template that the state requires, and so to submit, that's fine. All I'm looking for is, can you pull out the goals?
Okay.
Because they're in here. And right now I have to read through lots of different pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can put out the goal one, goal three, whatever there is in here. I think this has got 5. List the goals, and then, what's the measure? I think the goal, normally the measure is in the goal, and then just show me that, and then we want to repeat that year after year after year. So next year we just, okay, there's the goal. Did you achieve it? If not, why not? What's the thinking? That's all.
Can you pull up Foster's and see if that's something, Foster's the only one not required to do a state plan, and Foster actually did a plan where they have some goals here, they have some data here. So can we pull up Foster's to see, is this something similar to what you would like to see moving forward, or put some adaptations maybe? I just want to show you Foster's plan because they have their mission, the vision. They have data here, they have the building leadership team labeled here, and then they have basically just the goals, and then their action steps. I just want to see if that's something that the Foster plan is something similar to that you would like to see,
That seems reasonable.
or if there's something more there. I just want to make sure that.
I'm just looking to see if they talked about last year's 23, 24. Actually, this looks more like they were talking about last year's goals rather than this year's goals. I mean, they don't have any goals specified for 24, 25. They just have last year's goals.
Yeah, 24, 25. This will increase to 95% during the 24-25 school year on high school and beyond plan.
So it looks like it's a mix.
Okay, it just has to be updated, that's why we keep graphs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of like having the data there and the goal there, we like something like this.
And I think you got it right here, because if you look at attendance, number 2, right? On the action steps, it says the percentage of students regularly attending school increased from 63%, just 22 and 23, to 73% in 23, 24. So when we see this goal in 25, 26,
Yeah.
then it should, we'll have to, the only thing, you know, I would assume is that they'll say 23, 24, our goal was 73, but we only got
Yeah.
68 or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever it was, so
Yeah.
that there is the measure. I think we're asking for what that it would came out to be.
right,
Yeah, so this one, obviously they didn't meet it. So, you know, because it's 64.
Right.
We were gonna get up to 78. So, you know, what's the why? And then down below, they have the engaging students' action steps being leveraged.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's their plan.
Yeah.
Great.
all right, I just wanna make sure like if this is a template that's, we can flesh this out and I'll work with Foster and sort of getting this updated more, we have time, this is why we're bringing these things.
So if you do this, this is mostly making it ready for prime time to
Yeah,
come.
yeah.
It's not what will be submitted to the state.
No, Foster is not under school improvement, so Foster High
Exactly,
Schools are one
yeah.
school. So this is why I brought up their report, is like, that's something we can work off of and build up.
Rearrange it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I honor what the request is, and then we can work through and figure out the mechanics of how we're gonna operationalize it. I just wanted to make, but what I wanted to state for the record is the schools are looking at data and they are making adjustments to their goals. So based on data, Foster High School, if we all recall at the work session, they presented all of their data. So we actually have a template with their data. It's just a matter of pulling those threads inside. And so, I just wanna, make sure that we honor the building leadership teams. I don't wanna create too much more work for them, but Scott, this could be something that we develop and work on as a template. With career criteria, like previous year's data, those kinds of things, action steps. I think that's what the board's interested in. We can use this as a sample. All right.
With all that being agreed.
And now, Joe, you're here, so you're on the leadership team, right? Yeah, and there's a lot of work, right? You guys do behind the scenes to do that work, correct?
All of those, I'm gonna call them gentlemen's agreements made. The motion still stays on the floor then to get this approved, so you can get something into the state. There's nothing wrong with the report that's mandated and you.
Well, I can say the state, and Hannah, I talked with her this morning to make sure I was on track. She says, by law, every publicly funded school has to have a school improvement plan. What's included is district decided and school-based. So there's no specific thing that has to be in. If you're in school improvement based on different metrics, you have to use that template. You can add on, but you can't take away from it. So the plans here have been approved by their state coach. And so essentially there are arcade schools plans have been approved by the state already.
So you told us it's mandatory, there is a template process, it's been approved by their state advisors.
Right.
And now it's before us. Not to format them, the mandated anything, it's to say, have you gone through all these checkpoints? Are there any checkpoints that you haven't done that makes this a draft?
No.
So it's just.
Well, we have to update though, we have to do update, and we have to provide, so my suggestion would be, everybody, is that we take this out of action,
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion.
withdraw the motion, move this into review, like we did review, and then we'll put it for action in a future date, before, I believe the deadline, it was January. So we'll have to do it either in
Yeah.
December board meeting or the end of October board meeting, depending on how soon we can get this, but that's my recommendation.
That works.
Okay, so make a motion to postpone
Was withdrawn.
this item. Oh, you withdrew it? Oh,
Yeah.
never mind.
So they can move to the next meeting, they can.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's helpful, all the feedback is helpful, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone, that was well done, actually. If we can, well. Approval of out-of-state travel request.
You're doing great.
You did really good. So approval of out-of-state travel request basketball tournament,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do they need a chaperone?
You don't want to chaperone high school boys.
I just go to Vegas.
Oh, that's it.
Watch basketball. I was with my dad, I went to kids.
Okay, so we're gonna move to public comment. If there's any public comment, is there anyone? See Deborah Core. We'll wait a couple minutes if there's no one. Okay, so no one has come and raised their hand or anything else, then I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motions?
So moved.
Supposed to entertain a motion. That's okay.
They really want to go.
All good. Adjourn.
And
So that's a no on the Vegas, huh?
yes.
Yes, wherever you want.
I just want to make.